All right, on page 175, we're going to talk about bank statements. Okay, what happens every month when you get the statement that comes back to you in the mail from your bank? Okay, and they have the different things on the top of it or whatever they have in there. It says when you have a checking account, you receive a bank statement from the bank each month. It lists all your checks that the bank has cleared, including any automatic transfers, ATM transactions, and deposits that the bank has recorded since your last statement. A bank might tack on a service charge to your statement. This is a fee charging for services rendered. Here's a sample of what's explained on your account balance, and they give you a formula. The types of things that they might tack on a service thing for would be if you had maybe an automatic transfer set up to do like online bill paying. Like where all of a sudden I wanted to pay my water bill, but I set it up through my bank so that it automatically just went out at a certain time of the month. They might tack on a service fee for doing that for you. Maybe not. Okay? But our formula that we have for today is very similar to the one we had yesterday, where we say our present balance is going to be equal to our previous balance we're going to add to it any deposits. We're going to subtract out any withdrawals. We're going to subtract out any service charges. But we're going to add to it any interest. To get what our new balance is going to be. Now, just so that you guys do know that this is an option, not all checking accounts have interest, but some do. The one that I have set up through Gate City Bank has interest. It's an interest, not interest free, it's an interest accruing account. So what happens is whatever's in my account at the end of the month, they give me interest off of that. Now, it's not very much. So don't think you're going to get rich off of the interest. It's like, a couple pennies maybe. But whatever. It's pennies that I didn't have before. Wells Fargo, I know some people had that yesterday. We talked about that in fourth hour. They had things like they didn't pay back the fees for ATM stuff and all that other kind of stuff. So, but I know my bank at Gate City, where I have my checking account, does have interest. So that means every month they give me a little bit more because I had interest in my whatever I had in my account. Okay? And it depends on how much it's going to give us. But that's our formula for today. Our previous balance plus any deposits. A withdrawal is your checks, like if you wrote a check, just so that you know that. And then you're going to minus out any service charges, and you're going to add to it any interest. So if you turn the page to page 176, at the top, number 1 has a previous balance of $280. We're going to add to it the deposit of $120. We're going to minus out the withdrawal of $140. We have a service charge of $250. And we have interest accruing on that account of 30 cents. So what is our present balance? So on your calculator, you're going to take 280 plus 120. You're going to minus 140 from it. You're going to minus 250 from it. And you're going to add 30 cents. What do you get? Now, not that I don't trust Jordan, but does anybody else get that same answer? Yeah? Okay. So we must have typed it in right. Now, again, here might be the scenario. Jordan has $280 into his checking account right now. He deposited his paycheck of $120 this month, but then had an ATM of $70 and then $70 more for a grand total of $140. The ATM charged him $250 to use that service. His interest on his account for the month was 30 cents. What's his present balance? So all that type of stuff, that would be like a word problem compared to what we would see as not what it has for number 1. It would be a word problem for them. Okay? So again, we add any deposits, we add any interest, but we subtract out service fees and we subtract out withdrawals. Number 2, you start with $275. You add to it $105. You subtract out $312.60. You subtract out $4 for the service fee, but you add to it $0. There's no interest. So this might be a bank that doesn't give you interest on your checking account. Again, I know Gate City does, because that's where I have my checking account. But not all of them offer that. So just so that you're aware of it, that's things that you should look at when you're comparing which bank I'm going to go with. Next hour, I have a student that's doing that. She doesn't have a bank account, but she just got a job. So now what's she going to do with her money? She's going to get a check Friday. She has nowhere to put it. Nowhere to cash it either, because you have to go to somewhere that will cash it, and they're going to charge her money to cash that. Unless you have a bank. So she's looking at doing that. Compare. Which one should she go to? That was her question she asked me yesterday. Which one do I use? I told her what Gate City had. I had another person in there that had used Wells Fargo. So we compared a little bit. But she also knows she's going to move to Kansas City soon. So does she want to use open one at Gate City, which is more of a North Dakota thing, or a Wells Fargo, which is nationwide? That's your call. It doesn't matter the banks nowadays with the online stuff. Anyway, anybody get a number for this one? Did anybody else get that? So $63.40. That's not a whole lot of money in the account, is it? But it's better than yesterday's. Remember yesterday's last answer? What was the last answer yesterday? Did anybody remember what it was? Negative something, right? Is that good? No. Can you have a negative in your account? Yes, you can. Okay, so be careful with that. Then, on 3 and 4, it's set up the same way that 1 and 2 were, except for now it has multiple deposits, multiple withdrawals. So number 3 has $290 as the previous balance. I have deposits of $120 and $150. I have withdrawals of $140, and now this is where it's going to look different for you. Do you see where it says 140 and then right below it says plus 110? I'm not going to put plus 110 because this is what's going to throw you off. Because many of you are going to take your calculator and you're going to type 290 plus 120 plus 150 minus 140, and you're going to go plus 110 because it says plus there in the book. But that's a withdrawal. So withdrawals, or me taking money out of my account or writing a check, is going to be what, really? Yeah, it's a minus 110. What they wanted you to do is they wanted you to add those numbers together first before you subtracted them. But me personally, it doesn't matter. If you subtract the 140 and then subtract the 110, that's not a big deal. But many times, it happens all the time with this consumer math stuff, is that you would go minus 140, but then you would add 110, and then you're off. Okay? And then I'm going to subtract the $270 for the service charge, and I get a 25-cent interest, which I can't write that in there, so I'm going to just put it over here. So if I take 290 plus 120 plus 150 minus 140 minus 110 minus $2.07 plus a quarter, how much money do I have?
$307.55.
Did anybody else get what Jordan got? Did anybody else get that? Michael's saying yes, so must be okay. Is anybody okay with what we're doing on this? This is it, by the way. The whole assignment's just like this. When you get down to number 9, it actually shows a portion of Takesha Hallett's bank statement. and it tells you what the previous balance was, and it tells you check amounts. And if you look at that, there's 3 check amounts. It also tells me that she gets a payroll and a deposit. What are deposits and credits? Are those adds or subtracts? Right. And then a payment or debit, like a gas bill and a service charge. Are those minuses or adds? Yeah, we subtract. Right. Like yesterday when I had to pay for gas, it was $59 for my pickup. That's a minus, right? Yeah, but it could have been worse. A couple of years ago, it was way worse. It was more like 90. You know? So, are you guys okay with how this is set up? Be very careful, especially in the middle part where it says withdrawals and it's got all these adding signs. Are you actually adding a withdrawal? No. Like yesterday when I went to the ATM and took $40 cash out, that's not a add 40 into my account. That's a minus 40. Just like it was, and Jordan, pay attention to this part, when it says less cash received. That's not an adding, that's a subtracting. Okay? And I'm pointing that out for you specifically. Not for this assignment, but a previous one. Okay? So, it's only 1 through 9. So I already did 1 through 3 together. Okay?